Welcome back to Bike Two Wheel World. Today, we're taking a detailed look at a motorcycle that represents one of the purest expressions of classic Japanese motorcycling, the Yamaha SR400. For riders who believe a motorcycle should be simple, mechanical, elegant, and full of character, the SR400 continues to be a fascinating machine. Rather than chasing huge horsepower figures, advanced electronic systems, or aggressive styling, this motorcycle focuses on the fundamentals: a single-cylinder engine, a lightweight-feeling chassis, classic proportions, straightforward controls, and a riding experience built around connection between rider and machine. The SR400 has an extraordinary history. Yamaha introduced the senior family in the late 1970s, and the SR400 became one of the company's longest-running models. Yamaha itself describes the SR400 as a definitive long-selling motorcycle, with production history stretching for decades. That heritage is important because the SR400 doesn't simply borrow a few retro design cues. Its entire personality comes from the traditional motorcycle formula that made classic standards so appealing. For the 2026 discussion, it is worth pointing out that availability can vary significantly by market, and Yamaha's current regional information does not necessarily mean a completely new global 2026 generation. In Thailand, Yamaha lists an SR400 specification with a 399cc engine, 175 kilograms wet weight, 12-liter fuel tank, and a recommended price of 298,000 Thai baht. So throughout this review, we're treating the currently listed SR400 specification as the basis for our 2026 style review rather than pretending Yamaha has introduced an entirely redesigned motorcycle. And this is exactly what makes the SR400 interesting. In a world where motorcycles are becoming increasingly sophisticated, this Yamaha goes in the opposite direction. It emphasizes character over complexity. Start with the design, and the SR400 immediately communicates its intentions. The motorcycle has the classic silhouette that has made the senior name so recognizable. At the front, you get a round headlight that sits neatly above a traditional front mudguard. The proportions are clean and uncomplicated, with no enormous aerodynamic panels and no visually complicated bodywork. The fuel tank is one of the most recognizable elements. Its rounded shape flows naturally toward the seat and gives the motorcycle that unmistakable classic standard appearance. The tank doesn't look oversized or aggressive. Instead, it contributes to the balanced proportions of the entire motorcycle. Move toward the side and the SR400 becomes even more convincing. The exposed engine is a major part of the visual experience. Instead of hiding the mechanical components behind plastic, Yamaha allows the engine and frame to become part of the design. The single-cylinder layout gives the bike a strong visual identity, while the traditional frame and exhaust arrangement reinforce the vintage character. The wire-spoke wheels are another important detail. Yamaha's listed SR400 specification uses an 18-inch front wheel with a 90/100-18 tire and an 18-inch rear wheel with a 110/90-18 tire. These proportions contribute to the motorcycle's traditional stance and help it look like a genuine classic rather than a modern bike wearing retro accessories. At the rear, the design remains simple. There is no attempt to make the tail extremely sharp or futuristic. The seat flows toward a compact rear section, while the traditional exhaust system adds visual length to the motorcycle. Everything appears proportionate. That simplicity is one of the SR400's biggest selling points. There is very little visual noise. When you look at it from across the street, you know exactly what you're looking at. A classic motorcycle. The dimensions also support that traditional character. Yamaha's listed specification gives the SR400 an overall length of 2,085 mm, width of 750 mm, height of 1,100 mm and wheelbase of 1,410 mm. Seat height is around 790 mm, with 130 mm of ground clearance. The result is a motorcycle that looks substantial without appearing enormous. Now let's talk about the part that gives the SR400 its personality, the engine. Power comes from a 399cc, air-cooled, 4-stroke, SOC, 2-valve, Single-cylinder engine. Yamaha's current type specification lists maximum output at approximately 17.5 kilowatts, or 23.8 horsepower, at 6,500 revolutions per minute, with maximum torque of 27.4 Newton-meters. On paper, those numbers aren't designed to impress riders who are obsessed with acceleration figures. But that's not the purpose of the SR400. This is a motorcycle about usable performance and mechanical character. The single-cylinder engine produces a distinctive pulse that you simply don't get from a small parallel twin or four-cylinder engine. Every movement of the throttle feels connected to the engine's mechanical rhythm. There is a sense that you're operating a machine rather than simply commanding an electronic system. The air-cooled design also contributes to the old-school identity. There is something visually satisfying about seeing cooling fins around the cylinder and knowing that the engine doesn't need a complicated liquid cooling system to deliver its performance. The SR400 is not about maximum speed, it's about enjoying the journey. Around town, the engine's manageable output makes the motorcycle approachable. The power delivery is relatively straightforward, and the bike doesn't require you to constantly chase high RPM to enjoy it. On winding roads, the appeal becomes even clearer. Instead of arriving at enormous speeds almost immediately, the SR400 encourages the rider to focus on lines, corner entry, throttle control, and the sound and feel of the engine. The 5-speed transmission works naturally with the single-cylinder engine. Older SR400 specifications have traditionally used a 5-speed gearbox, and Yamaha's long-running senior formula has always emphasized simplicity rather than excessive gearing or electronic intervention. One of the most unusual characteristics of the SR400 is its traditional kickstart system. Yamaha's official historical documentation identifies kickstarting as part of the SR400's mechanical identity. For modern riders accustomed to pressing a button and hearing the engine instantly come alive, the kickstart process can feel almost ceremonial. But that is also part of the charm. Starting an SR400 isn't simply another electronic action, it is part of the ownership experience. It reinforces the feeling that this is a motorcycle from a different era that has managed to remain relevant. Of course, that traditional approach isn't perfect for everyone. Riders who want push-button convenience, multiple riding modes, advanced traction control, smartphone integration, or a large digital dashboard will find the SR400 intentionally basic. But basic doesn't necessarily mean bad. In fact, simplicity is arguably the motorcycle's biggest unique selling point. The cockpit continues the same philosophy. Instead of surrounding the rider with screens, the SR400 traditionally uses an analog-style instrument layout. Speed, engine information, and essential indicators are presented in a way that feels familiar and easy to understand.